You can make hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your YouTube channel before you're ever monetized with YouTube ads. And it's easier than you think. In a recent study we did, we found that 30% of creators that hadn't even hit 1,000 subs yet were making really good money on their YouTube channels.
These are so good that by the time you're accepted into the YouTube partner program, you're not even gonna care, because it will be such a little piece of the pie. And no, these aren't super hard. A lot of them can be implemented in less than 24 hours.
We just dropped a video on this channel where we exposed how YouTubers are actually making money on their channels. We surveyed our audience for that video to figure out exactly what they were doing. And as I was combing through the data from that study, I found something that just shocked me. It was that 30% number. 30% of YouTubers who aren't even monetized yet are making big money on their YouTube channels. When I saw that, I knew I had to dive a little bit deeper and figure out how exactly they were doing it.
That is wild. I just need to point out how crazy that is, because that's 30% of our entire sample set. Yeah. But how many people haven't even tried? I don't think many more than 30% have even tried, because most people don't think to try to monetize before they hit 1,000 subscribers or even 500 subscribers. And so 30% of people are actually succeeding. That's huge. It's huge. We're so excited about this. So I identified 6 revenue strategies that they are using, and we are going to rank them on these 6 factors for each one. The most common monetization type people are using is affiliate. So the average earnings in our sample set was between $50 and $100, but don't get that confused. The potential is so much higher than that. But we are only looking at a sample set of people that have less than 1,000 subscribers. And still the average was between $50 and $100 with affiliates.
And if we talk about like, why is this the most common? I think it's because affiliate marketing is something that's just so common on the internet. Really, anybody who's probably ever thought about trying to make money on the internet has come across affiliate marketing. I think the other piece is not just that it's really common, it's that even if you implement it and do a terrible job, you're still probably going to make some money. I see that all the time with people in Project 24, our YouTube membership. Even if they do a okay job of implementing their affiliate strategy on their channel, they still end up making some amount of money.
Yeah, you basically can't mess it up. Just be really careful that you're honest with your audience if you are mentioning the product. But besides that, you put the link, there's not a lot that can go wrong, or a lot of like really heavy strategy with this one. There's some, but it's so easy to just get started. You're not going to do it wrong. Now you'll see that not a lot of people are using consults, which is why we ranked it as number 5 in this category, but consults are underused, so underused, and you'll see why more in some of the other categories.
Yeah, I'm really excited about consultations. This is one that, like you said, very few people use, but as far as earnings go, it makes people a lot of money, even people with very small channels. And I should also say, you probably noticed we skipped over a few here. We're not going to talk about every single item in every single category, but we're going to touch on the ones that we think are most important for you to know and understand.
The next ranking factor is easiest to get started. What do you think about this one, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can all see affiliates, again, number 1, I think for obvious reasons that we just talked about. The one that I'm actually really interested to talk about, first off, is the number 2 position here, viewer supported. And I think there's a little bit of a caveat here. There's 2 sides to this. There's like the Patreon or a membership side where people are paying you and then you're providing them an extra value, maybe extra content or behind the scenes. That works great. There's also the side where people are just donating because they like you and they want to support you. Those are great, and with a small audience, they can work really, really well. But here's the catch. You need to make sure that your audience connection is dialed. We've done some videos recently on this channel talking about how important audience connection is. And if your audience doesn't connect with you, they're not going to support you monetarily, especially when your channel is small and you have so few viewers. This one may or may not be the best choice, but it's very popular to get started with, and it's easy to get started with.
Can I do like random book recommendations on this channel that have nothing to do with YouTube? One of my favorites, I recently pulled it out of my closet again last night. It's called Never Lose a Customer Again. And I know we're not talking about like necessarily just customers, because your viewers are not just customers in a business transaction. This book is so good for building like raving fans. The premise is almost like you're feeling you're building this club for your community. It's a really good book, so check it out.
All right, so the next one is consultations, and earlier you said you were really excited about this one. Why?
Yeah, so I've had some experience, quite a bit of experience, and a few different topics on this. I learned that people just want to hear from you if you know slightly more about the topic than they do. And you'll build trust on your YouTube channel, and it feels like maybe you have to have a whole lesson plan if you're teaching something, or more credentials if you're trying to do some consulting. But as long as you're not in like a super regulated niche like legal advice, it's gonna be okay. And just be upfront about your credentials, and People just want your help, and it's so easy to get started. Please try and don't overthink it. This just looks like putting a link in your description. It can be to something like a Calendly where they can book an appointment with you, or your email. You can do it more casually and set up some kind of video or phone call like that. It's so easy to get started, and it's just such a good way to start making like significant money, especially if you're trying to quit your day job, or maybe you don't currently have a day job. You need YouTube to work for you quickly. This is your best bet.
We're gonna share with you the exact numbers here of what's most lucrative. That's coming soon, but I'll just tell you, this one is one of the more lucrative opportunities for small creators. So just do it.
Okay, real quick here, sponsorships. I know it's number 5 because it's not particularly easy to get started, partially because you don't have a lot of control over what companies reach out to you. And if you're trying to reach out to other companies, it might take a while before you get a good bite. But this one is so valuable in the beginning, especially if you do get an offer, because often companies will send you products and then you can test those products on your channel, which people love to see reviews and tests. And then you give your honest feedback, and it's a great way to get your channel off the ground. So it's a really good way to get early traction if you're able to do it.
Cool. All right. Next category here is most passive long-term. There's a lot of variability in this one. We're going to talk about a couple examples that I think really illustrate the point here. So let's talk about physical products. So something like merchandise, or if you're creating something on your channel, I think that there's this very passive side, and then maybe there's like a less passive side. So I want to address both, just because many of you might say in the comments, well, it's not really that passive, I do it. Here's why we're going to tell you. Okay, so physical products. The extreme passive on this might be like merchandise using Spreadshop, or one of the other really just like drag and drop sort of merchandise companies. It's very easy. Basically, all you do is you upload like a logo or a design, and then they just like slap it on a t-shirt, slap it on a mug, and then you can sell it. Like, that's really easy. It's probably not the most lucrative way to do it because they're going to take their cut, but it's so passive. The side that's a little less passive is like what I mentioned, if you're making items to sell. So like if you do woodworking or any sort of art, like yes, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be very labor intensive, but you can kind of see how there's a very passive side to it and a less passive side to it.
Yeah, so you mentioned, Nathan, that some people actually make something for a video and then sell that specific thing, like a one-off thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because normally think of products as like, I have to mass produce this, set of items and they're all the same, but you don't have to. You could actually just make one piece of art in the video and then 1 million people see it, right, or a few hundred people see it, and maybe want it, and then you're selling those one-off projects.
I really like that example, and that's actually the example that came in our data sheet as we did this study. Yeah. So like this person was selling the things that they were making for the video. So they weren't necessarily having to do extra work outside of their video per se. It was just labor intensive still because they still had to do it, but they were getting a video out of it, and then they could actually go sell what they made. I think that that's just such a cool recipe. So it doesn't just have to be like make 1,000 of one thing and then go sell it on Etsy or whatever. You could literally make one thing for the video and then go sell it.
Another example is like with sponsorships. An extremely passive version would be just put the coupon code in your description because you mentioned it, and maybe even say that you haven't tried the product, you don't necessarily recommend it, but if people are curious what you mentioned in the video, that's it. The extreme active would be like if you had a deal with the brand and you're supposed to make specific YouTube videos about their product. That can be a little harder. And with each of these, we have some examples for extremely passive versions and extremely active versions in the worksheet, so make sure you're getting the worksheet.
Okay, the next one is what is the most fun? Now we get it. This one is very subjective. It just depends on what you like. Julia, what would you say for you? What would be the most fun one for you to do?
Yeah, I actually like making like software, and I'm not a software engineer. I don't know how to do it. I'm not a programmer, so I hire people. I hired people to make a search engine because I just see something and I want to make it better. So for me, it's info products, it's digital products where there's a version of it that's out there already, but I'm picky and I want a different version.
Very cool.
What about you, Nathan?
Most fun for me, I think, is just whatever's making me the most money. I'd probably honestly like try a variety of these, maybe multiple at the same time, and whatever one is like doing the best for me, honestly, that's where I think I'd find the most fun.
You can have fun with all the money you make.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, now the most exciting category, probably for most
what
people,
everyone's been waiting for,
is the most lucrative options. Now, remember, this is not the ceiling of the potential of these by any means, because this sample of people we are looking at are people that have less than 1,000 subscribers. They are not even to that full official monetization on YouTube yet. They're not accepted into the YouTube Partner Program. They have under 1,000 subscribers, and they are making, on average, this much money. Now, you can see the chart here, but the real secret to the most lucrative option is to combine these.
Yeah.
But you can't do everything all at once. Nobody has infinite time and energy. So there's some strategy to combining them well.
Yeah, so I alluded to this earlier when I talked about what would be most fun for me. I said I'd probably do a couple at a time. I would probably use some of these complementary ones just because, like, info products and digital products. So you might have like this whole course of information online with videos and helpful explainers, that sort of thing, that have like fillable worksheets online. Well, you could also turn those worksheets into a workbook, or like some sort of digital planner turned into a physical planner, different things like that, where you can do the work once and then turn it into a different style of product or different form of product that a different person might want to buy. So it's just very complementary. You could have this one thing, but then reuse it in another way and just really appeal to a totally separate audience. The other one that I would probably recommend doing is consults plus an info product. I think consults are like the gateway to info products. I think it's so cool because as you do a consultation and you do them over and over again, you start to identify the questions that people have, the problems that they're running into. And rather than just doing consultations forever and ever, which you can only do so many, you could turn it into a info product where you create a video course or lessons or worksheets, and then you just sell it to everybody who would have done a consultation with you. You'll have a much broader reach. And you could still do consultations, but then you could just charge way more for them. It's just the perfect combination.
Yeah, it's such a good way to transition from selling your time for money too, because you can just slowly offer less and less time slots for your consults as you sell more of the info product. Okay, and then if you are really thriving with like viewer supported revenue, you might consider doing merch, because that means that people are attached to you and they're attached to your brand. And through your Patreon or whatever other method you're using, it can be really easy to offer like bonuses for free merch, but then you could also sell the merch on the side. Yep. And then that's more advertising. Definitely make things that people like, not just that's advertising for you, but it's just a really good way. If you have that brand loyalty, or if you're starting to create the brand loyalty, then merch can be good. Be careful with merch. If you're brand new and you don't have a loyal audience or brand loyalty, don't spend your time on it in the beginning, but that's a good combo if your community is thriving.
Okay, we have all those categories out now. We want to share with you just the winners. Here's the table of all the winners from each category. You're gonna start seeing that there's a couple that are just always showing up at the top there. Those are probably good ones to get started with. But we have a lot of experience with every single one of these monetization opportunities. So we want to share with you our top picks and why, so that you can get a really good idea of what you should do to get started. My top pick would just be affiliate marketing, and here's why. It is so easy to get started with, and like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you can hardly fail. Like, if you're the guy or lady that failed out there, I'm sorry, but you can really hardly fail with this, even if it just means you're making a couple bucks a month. Before your channel's monetized with ads, even a few dollars a month can make such a big difference. Now, you might even feel like you've missed the boat. Maybe you've already put out a bunch of videos, but you've never talked about an affiliate product, you've never mentioned it, or you're never telling people to go look in the description. That's okay. I have seen it where people still put affiliate links in their descriptions, even if they never mention it in their videos, and they still make like $30 to $50 every single month. And that's like the low end, like Julia said earlier. That's not the ceiling on this. It's literally the bare minimum. There are people, like you saw, who are doing hundreds of dollars a month, even with less than 1,000 subscribers, with just affiliate marketing.
Yeah, and you can put a pinned comment in your
very good point
video. Our other top pick is consultations. There's so many reasons. They're easy to implement.
It's a high dollar value for the time you're putting into it.
Industry recon for future info products.
And great connection with your audience members. Here's the one last thing that I'll say. People are so much more likely to support you if they can connect with and trust you. We have developed a proven method to help you gain that trust of your audience, where we saw a 100% increase in views and subscribers when we implemented it. Go check that video out so that you can too.